Hi everyone, I'm so excited for this video. And honestly, after a little introduction about the Spring Boot and its dependency and how to initialize your Spring Boot, now it's time to start coding and go on to creating our application. The first idea is creating an entity class, a book entity, in fact, that is going to be mapped as a table in database for our crowd queries. But for those who followed this tutorial, before I explain about the book object and what is a book object and about the attributes of the book, one of these attributes was a genre that was an enum class, and an enum is the class and is responsible to categorize the genres of the book into the book store. So before before I start with creating the book entity, I want to declare enum class. I want to create a package with the name enums, and later I will add all enums into this application through this application into this package. Okay, you can right click on the enum and select the Java class. And through the classes, type of the classes, select the enum. I want to name it genre, because it takes time to complete this genre, and I want to specify a separate video to create my genre. And to shorten it, this video, I want to just declare it and leave it empty. Later, I will go back to complete this enum class. But for now, leave it empty. And this video, I want to concentrate on the enum class, on the entity class. Okay. Through the root package, I want to create a new package with the name entities. The first entity is the book entity, the Java class. Okay, what we know about the entity is entity must be a top level Java class. I mean, we are not able to select interface or enum to create your entity. Exceptions and annotations that has different purposes at all. But as I said, the entity must be a top level Java class. The name of my entity is book, and before the block of the class, I want to select the entity. It must show me, okay, entity from Jakarta persistence package. Jakarta persistence added through a Spring 3 and is a replacement of Java X from Java Enterprise editions, and entity comes from the Jakarta persistence. Based on first of all, I recommend definitely read the Jakarta persistence API documentation to be familiar with the details of the rules of this powerful API. But based on the document, entity must have a private key. In fact, let me to comment it here. Okay. First, An entity must have a primary key. The type of primary key could have any primitive variable, but I prefer to use ID for my primary key. But before that, I want to use a generation value from and generation type is auto. It means I have a primary key and is auto incremented to the name ID from the Jakarta instance, and the variable or attributes is along the name ID, and it means this ID is unique and auto increment. Auto increment. Okay. Based on this document, this second about all these attributes, a book should be included from there. From this title, that is a string, other string, description, that is a string, and I want to declare all of them. And as you know, all of these attributes should be private string, string title, private string other, that refers to the name of the other, private string description. Honestly, these attributes are crucial because they make your book searchable, and we can search a book by its title, its author, and later we create all the parameters and methods to do that. Price, that is long, and sold, that is integer. Okay. Double, that is price. And the private int, that is sold, and refers to the sold book, number of sold book. And private int total, and the total refers the amount of existed book store in database, and there is a relationship between two parameters, between sold and total. I will explain later. And declaring John or Enium or and AR recommendation, and the private what was the name of Enium, the gem, and another string that is responsible for chat GPT recommendation. For the first, this parameter is empty, but when you are going to extract or fetch data from database, you can prompt with the ChatGPT and replace the result of prompting the ChatGPT to show to the client. All those parameters are private, but to access to them, I want to select the getter and the setter. In fact, variable accessors for all variable. Okay. And you definitely now, the method of variable accessors should be public to be accessible from the outside of the class. Public long get ID that returns return this.id and public void set ID that takes along with the name ID as a attribute or argument, and this argument is the same as the class. Okay, another parameter is the string. Get title that returns this title and public void set title that takes in a string title and the result of title is a title. Okay, it takes time to write getter and setter for Edge, but if you click right and select the generator, select the getter and setter, and select the all attributes to make getter and setter for all of them. Okay, as you're seeing, all of parameters now has the variable accessor. I want to create another method to identify if object is empty or not. I want to create a specific method that is a Boolean method. Object is empty. That returns, and you see Booleans by default returns true. And if this ID equals to the 0 and this title equals to the null and this other equals to the null. If the ID be the 0 or the title be the null or other be the null, this this method returns true, and that means the object is empty. and you can log or inform the customer that this object is empty. Maybe you can add all attributes, yeah, but I think these three attributes are enough to or to understand whether this object is empty or not. And there are some optional methods. Sorry, commented it. The object. There are some optional methods that say whether object equals. You can use of them to understand whether this object equals to the object or not, and the hash code of the object. But now my book entity is completed. As you're saying, this entity, and you see, and you know, the entity in fact turns into a row table in the database. You know, in fact, book creates a table with the name book, and each row consists of some columns as the parameters. You can annotate each of these parameters with the column name, as you are saying from Jakarta pre-existence. As you are saying, and column has several attributes. For example, the name of the column, or in fact the length of the. Similar to a table into database, you have some attributes. In entity class, but if you by default through the entity, each attributes in fact is a column in the row. Okay, let me to complete this, guys. The first rule was the entity must have a primary key, and any primitive variable is allowed to be primary key. Number two is entity must be a top level Java class, and as I explained, you are not able to use Enium or interface to create your entity. Each entity is a row in database table with the same name of the entity. And second rule is each attribute is a column of the table in database with the same name of the attribute by default. Okay, now my entity is completed. That's a simple entity. Entity could be more complicated than what I write here. You can read the document of Jakarta Persistence API to be familiar with other rules of the entity and the features of this powerful API. I recommend to read the document to have a comprehensive perception about this API. The next idea is creating a book DTO that is completely similar to the book entity. With the difference, it is not an entity class. In fact, it's a project class. And works like a container, works like a model, and is going to be mapped with the book entity, and is responsible to carry data from controller to service class and vice